Welcome to another DragonLance Saga gaming episode. Today we are playing the Prelude to War. This is actually found in DragonLance Shadow of the Dragon Queen, and it is called Broken Silence. This is ultimately to lead up to the Shadow of the Dragon Queen campaign and introduce characters to the world and set them up for success, ultimately, hopefully. Today joining me, of course, is Derek. Derek, can you introduce us to your player, please?
Sure. My name's Derek. I'm going to be playing Ulrich. He is a druid half-elf, comes from the forest of Lemish on the southern parts of Solamnia. He is a seeker of balance. He doesn't believe in the gods anymore, or never has, because they've never had any witness or reason to see the gods actually exist. He basically lost his mother in a tragic killing by an ogre. So he has his father is constantly looking for this ogre that he wants to kill, to revenge his wife's death. He's crazy, and he is also a very powerful druid, but he's gone a little nuts, and now he will only be in the form of a dog, or a wolf, that is, and constantly is the companion that Ulrich has to deal with, and he's always worried about him. So yeah, that's my character.
Nice. And what was your father's name again?
His name, pronouncing it properly, let's see. It was, I have it right here. If I can just get to it, that is. Gil Daril. Gil Daril is his name. He is, a Sylvan elf who, before the time of the Cataclysm, fell in love with the forest of Lemish.
Yeah. Well, ultimately, your father has been, since the absence of the gods and the Cataclysm, as you had noted, slowly been driven sort of mad. This could be attributed to the loss of your mother. It could be attributed to the loss of the gods. It could be a whole host of combinations of factors. But ultimately, the only way he seems to be able to find any semblance of peace within himself, though even that is lacking, it is in the form of this this creature that he's turned into, this wolf or this dog form. And ultimately, like you had mentioned, he sort of has a mind of his own. He comes and goes at his will. Sometimes he likes to spend some time with you and just sort of, acting as if he was some sort of animal companion to you. But other times you may not see him for days at a time, just coming and going. One thing that was consistent in your youth growing up is this individual named Ispin Greenshield. So can you tell us how you came to know Ispin Greenshield?
Ispin Greenshield was a friend of my father's. Gil Daril basically was really good friends with him. My mother knew him, but when my mother died, he kept coming back to check on my father because my father was slowly going even more insane and more crazy. And that's when he discovered me as a child. And he basically would show up from time to time, checking on me to make sure I was okay, but also checking on my father because he cared for him a great deal. On his adventures and journeys throughout the world, he'd come back sometimes with books and things of knowledge because Ulrich has a curiosity for medicine, for the natural law, sciences, things. He wants to understand balance. And so Ispin was a really good friend to him. And for over the last several years, he has not seen Ispin very much, but he did get a letter from a knight named Becken, I guess, and basically saying that something happened to Ispin, and that's kind of what I know about Ispin, is that he is passed, right?
Yeah. So the letter itself reads, "Dear friend, I am Becklin Uth Viharin. I've heard much about you from our mutual friend Ispin Greenshield. It grieves me to share this news that our dear friend Ispin passed away peacefully here at his home in Vogler. May fortune and the old gods protect his soul. Ispin's friends are holding a memorial for him in the manner he always wanted. It will take place here in Vogler on the Eye of the Kingfisher Festival. I write to ask you to do Ispin one last honor and attend. Should you come, accommodations will be available at the Brass Crab. Though the circumstances are sad, I am eager to meet you and through our memories to revel in the life of our great friend. Signed, Becklin Uthviharin, Knight of the Crown. So is this something that you think that you would like to attend, this funeral?
Yes, I think my character is very really thinks of him fondly, as he's like one of the only human friends that he consistently has. Most of the time he goes months without seeing any humans. He spends a lot of his time with his father, or maybe he'll help wanderers, people lost in the forest. But for the most part, he just wants to make sure that the forest is protected.
Yeah.
But at this moment, he really has a draw to wanting to be there for the last rites, or give his respects to any family that may remain of this individual that had such a strong impact on his life. So
yeah. So some of the things that you've been experiencing in the time that Ispin has been coming by and visiting, and you watching this slow descent to madness of your father, it has to place some sort of emotional toll on you as an individual. Beginning about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, you've been having these flashes, these dreams that are almost like waking dreams. They happen while you're awake and while you're sleeping, and it's not always the same. But in some of these cases, you've been woken as if by some sort of external force, and finding yourself literally out in the forest without ever having any memory of going there yourself, in some sort of sacred grove spaces. And sometimes it's next to a stream, and sometimes you're at the end of a stream at this pond. In other cases, you find yourself at these cairns, surrounded in this sort of grove. And you've always noticed that there's always animals around, whether it's birds and squirrels in the trees, or whether it's some sort of form of a gopher or a deer in the woods surrounding you. You've always felt this sense of harmony and happiness in these sort of waking dreams of yours, up until about a month and a half ago. Then these dreams started turning darker. The forests started withering. You started noticing these animals, birds would drop out of the sky as if their forms are diseased or twisted in some unnatural way. Deer, you're seeing carcasses rather than the playful animals. And as these dreams start to get darker and darker, fear starts pressing in on your mind that maybe what afflicted your father is now coming to afflict you. Maybe this madness isn't environmental. Maybe it's hereditary of some nature. And how far you want to take that fear is up to you, but it is something that's playing on your mind, because ultimately, though you've lived the life of a druid, you've never been able to connect with any form of deity, whether it's nature or Chislev, as your father had always instructed you. You've always felt this sort of disconnect, whereas he shared experience of intimate connection, not of a sexual nature, but just of a closeness to that, akin to a divine father figure or mother figure. And you've always wanted that, but you figured that since your father lost it, and maybe his descent, maybe that's just something that you would never have that connection, except for these waking dream moments. They were just these glimpses of something that sort of led you on a pathway that you found yourself today, as wanting to live this life of a druid, an homage of the natural environments that you've chosen to live in. Now you have Ispin having passed, and this invitation to go to Vogler. You're having these dreams that are sort of tormenting you a little bit. If you wanted to attend this funeral, you need to start, collecting your belongings and start the journey now, because you do have quite the trip ahead of you.
So I gather everything I can, and I go outside of our cabin, and I call out to my father. I have my spear, and I take my shield just because there are creatures in the woods that are not safe. So I'm just prepared just in case I run into anything. And I yell out, "Father, Father, it's time to go. Where are you? It's time to go. Ispin's funeral is only a short time away. We don't have time to dilly-dally."
You see your father actually padding through the forest and looking back at you. in anyone who's ever owned any animals before, you do get this visual representation of sadness on animals' faces. It's quite stirring, and you just have that represented in this wolf's facial features. This sort of sorrow in the eyes and the drooping of the head. The tail is just sort of, falling to the, his hind legs without any, excitement or anything. And he just sort of turns his head and starts walking off into the distance. He's not waiting for you. He's not really even acknowledging you past that initial look. But it does seem that he is headed in that general direction, to the main road to get to Vogler.
I dropped my head too. I feel for basically still a form of loss. Nothing like I felt with my mother, but still a great loss. And I basically just start marching off in the direction I believe the city is in.
Yeah.
I don't know if I've ever been there, because I don't think my character really likes to be in cities. So
yeah. Well, you definitely have never traveled this far from Solamnia into Estwild, where Vogler's located, and it's pretty far north compared to where you are, so it is going to take you quite some time. Can I have you roll a nature or a survival check? What do you have here for that? You have a nature, right? You're proficient?
yeah, I should be. I selected that. Let me go back to my character and go into view. And let's see, I have nature's intelligence, and what was survival? Survival is wisdom. I will do survival.
Okay.
And scored an 18 with a +3. That's 21.
Wow. That's really great. Yeah, so you're able to live off the land in the time that it takes you. I mean, you're traveling hundreds of miles. I mean, hundreds of miles. It takes you a very long time. This is like months' journey for you if you're going to just be going on foot. And your father, you don't always see him during this journey. From time to time, you'll sort of wake up after one of those waking dreams and see him next to the burned out campfire, if you keep them. From time to time, you'll notice him in the distance, sort of traveling on the edge of the tree line when there's trees, or always through scrub brush, never out in the open himself. To be fair, people are going to try to hunt and kill him if they find him anywhere near any sort of civilized area, because they don't know anything other than he's a wolf. And so, again, this isn't something where you're spending time together. He very much seems to be going on his own journey, and you just happen to be going sometimes with him and sometimes in absence of him. Storm clouds are rolling in and sort of pounding at some periods of time, and you're just sort of walking, very much like Kane from Kung Fu or something, just walking the land by yourself. From time to time, you do run across other wagon trains of people just traveling and living their lives. Other times, you see knights traveling across the road, which again, in this period of time, they're not really trusted, and you don't know a whole lot about them anyway, other than they seem to be imposing, and everyone seems to be a little bit tense. Throughout your journey, you're noticing, just overhearing some talk. Whenever someone comes up to you and starts trying to do a little bit of small talk, just as a moment of respite in this long travel that they're going on, in addition to what you're doing, you hear rumors of soldiers amassing in distant regions of the world, like the Taman Busuk, or even as far as Goodland in some tales. You hear stories of wizards trying to take control of the land, and they're throwing these ideas of wars or armies rising up in order to distract the knighthood or other militias. You hear rumors that the knights themselves are trying to start a new war so that they can look like the heroes and turn their fortune around. So though there is a consistency of stress, worry, and strain about virtually everyone that you come across, there doesn't seem to be any consistency in why anyone should be worried. Just that the world right now is in a point of seeming turmoil, and no one really understands what is behind it. And of course, since the cataclysm, the world has been in turmoil. So it's not anything dramatically new, but these rumors are new compared to what you've heard in the past. As you settle down for a night, your father, the wolf, comes over and just sort of shares the evening with you, and you feel a sense of connection and contentment for the first time in maybe almost a week and a half of you traveling, because he is sort of with you, rather than just traveling seemingly alongside or in the distance. He's actually seeming to want to spend time with you. And you see him sort of curl up next to whatever form of a fire you're able to have. When you do camp out, what does your campsite look like?
Usually I'll be off the road, if at all, like to the point where a small fire wouldn't be noticed. It will be kind of a very small fire, and I'll eventually smother it before I go to sleep, because we can't have the trees catching fire if I'm not paying attention. So I will warm some rocks next to the fire, so I can put them into my blankets, depending on what type of year is it, by the way.
Right now we're looking at about September-ish.
September-ish. So yeah, he'll warm the rocks by the fire, and he'll put them next to his blankets after he puts the fire out, so he has some warmth throughout the night. And he is always welcome to cuddle up with his father if he needs to for warmth, if his father's ever willing. But that's, yeah.
Tonight would be the first night in a very long time that he's ever seemed to be willing to have close proximity and connection with you. And so when it does come time for you to sort of, put out the fire and lay down, he does sort of, curl up next to you, adding that extra body heat, which is, of course, going to be welcome, but also this sense of closeness and intimacy that he wants to share with you in this moment for whatever reason. He certainly isn't communicating it. As you go to sleep, you find yourself in the midst of one of these waking dreams again, and you find yourself standing at the center of a forest clearing. Clashing steel echoes from the thicket beyond, and as you look around, you realize piles of bodies cover all of the ground. One of the fallen bodies has something that is clutching in its hand against its chest. You're not entirely sure what this happens to be, but you do feel the urge to reach for it, and you see your father sort of pad up to it and sort of look down at it and do this sort of deep resonating howl that just starts like within the diaphragm of this wolf, and he reaches his neck out, just goes up, and you notice it's been sort of cloudy for on and off most of the time just because of the seasons. As you look up, you actually see the stars and the constellations in the sky, and you see the brilliant, pristine solanary and the nuitary is just lunitary is shining its red light down and casting everything in this sort of reddish hue. As the wolf is sort of crying out in front of you, howling to whatever in the night sky, you start to notice that this item that this corpse is clutching starts shining brilliantly from underneath the hand, and it's showing, it's like spreading these shafts of light from between the fingers and between the thumb and back where the hand is supposed to be, and it's just sort of this emanating light coming out. What do you want to do?
I look at my father, and then I look down at the item, and I slowly start to reach towards it, and then I look back at him as I reach for it. Do I get the sense that it's unnerving him that I'm reaching for it?
No. As you are reaching down, you see him sort of pad up around the body and stand next to you, just as almost a sign of companionship or a sign of support in some way.
I reach down for the item, and I just try to see if I can pick it up.
You can. As soon as you reach down for it, the hand sort of like flops and crumbles away, landing on the side of the body of this human female is what it looks like. And this medallion, as you reach down, you pick it up and turn it over, it has this etching of a leaf into the surface of it. And you feel this immense sense of warmth and connection that instantly goes away as it explodes out from you. And this, almost like this blast from you at the epicenter, blasting out. You see the trees, the branches of all the bushes, any animals and any flowers or plants that were on the ground are just sort of pushed aside and lay over on their side. Ultimately, it looks like a massive bomb just went off and there's nothing in your hand anymore, just the wolf looking up at your hand and then looking up at you, and almost a questioning look as if prodding you to something.
What, Father, what was that?
You hear this, like a little bit of concerned vocalizing coming from him. You see him start sort of looking around, and it starts plodding off away from the sort of massive bodies and this sort of epicenter blast zone further into the tree line.
Can I follow?
Yeah.
I'll go after.
So as you follow him into the tree line, you actually, both of you come upon this scene. It's a crumbling stone structure that lies among the undergrowth. Its roof is pierced by a tree of an enormous size. Its walls are mostly intact. There's this large empty door frame that leads inside of this crumbling structure. You see your father sort of pad up to it and just sort of sit down right in front of the entryway. You see vines snaking up the lines, the sides of this crumbling structure. That massive tree is sort of hanging over, looming over the, coming out from the center of it, looming over the entrance. Your father sort of cast in shadow. The moon's light do not pierce through the canopy of this immense tree, and it's just sort of silence.
I walk over to where my father is and I peer inside.
You start peering inside and you can't really see anything. It seems the shadow is so intense on the inside that there's literally no light entering it. It's just sort of darkness, and the wolf sort of looks up at you and sort of like like turns its nose over toward the entrance and is just staring at the entrance.
I look at my father as I slowly start to step forward and just kind of feel my way in.
You start walking in and your hands hit the doorway, the frame, and you sort of enter into this space. And the first thing you notice on the other side, you see this tree visible from the outside that breaks through the ruined marble floor. It stretches through the collapsed ceiling. Around it, broken statues are lining the remaining walls, standing in crumbling alcoves. You see this sort of broken, crumbling statue of what at one time was a female form of some kind, and you start to see this sort of red swirling mist fill in the gaps of where the stone is crumbled and is lying on the floor, and these 5 tendril-like heads loom out in front of you. Can I get you to do a it would be a wisdom, something like fear check.
Okay, so do I do
So
that
it'd
just
be
by
an,
doing a...
I don't know, it would be intimidation, so maybe, I don't know, what would be the opposite of that? Wisdom, I guess? I don't know.
And so wisdom saving throw, is that just like what I'm doing? Is it just a wisdom?
Yeah, I guess so, unless there's something that you think would work really well. I'm looking through here.
I guess I just go over to my stat and I go to the wisdom, hit the little roll button.
Yeah, let's try that.
Okay. Okay, got an 11 plus 3, that's 14.
Okay. So as you are looking at this image, these sort of snake heads come out. You're hearing this whispering sound, just, and it's getting louder and deeper, and it's just sort of enveloping you. And fear has just struck all over. Every nerve in your body is shaking from terror. Whatever this looming entity is, can I get an insight check? Do you have a religion or history?
Yeah, I have religion.
Let's try that.
Let's see, I have religion. Okay. All right, I scored, did I roll a 1?
Yeah, I'm showing a 5 total.
I got a 2 because I have a plus 3, so I just can't see the die roll for some reason. But yeah, it's a total of 20 plus 3. So it should be a 2, I think, is what I rolled, which still isn't good.
Yeah. So as you're looking at this, you're a little too terrified to try to comprehend exactly what it is. It actually knocks you back on your hindquarters, and you're sort of crab walking backwards, just trying to get away from this immense, you know, terrifying visage that is unfolding around you. And as you back up, you sort of find your back hitting another statue structure. You turn up and look at it, and you just see this form of this sort of. It's presenting itself in this form of this sort of nature goddess. You know, you see her clothing is completely absent. You actually see a little bit of fur coming off parts of her body, but you get the distinct impression that it is feminine in this moment, and it is reaching out to you in like its light is shining and purifying and pushing that fear out of your body. And you just feel this immense closeness. Inside of your head, you hear this delicate, light voice. Do not be afraid. You are one of my kind. We together can banish this darkness. The evil will not gain hold of this land. If you will be my disciple, together we will fight the darkness.
And I am now just like I'm assuming the feeling is there's like a kind of a warm, like prickly feeling, kind of very like almost like listening to like a crescendo of really powerful music that's causing me to feel goose pimples all over. And I'm just like I just start my eyes start to weep at this feeling that my father probably has told me about so many times that I've never felt. And I immediately out loud I just say, yes, yes, I will follow you.
So I am Chislev. I am of nature, and you are my kind. I would like to present you with this medallion, and from it I will manifest powers through you. And if you are willing, pick up the amulet. And you see on the statue an amulet just appear around this sort of crumbling bust space where the head of the statue was, and this sort of spiritual entity, a sort of force, has formed the rest of the body of the statue.
I slowly arise to my knees and stand up, and I hesitantly reach out and try to touch basically touch the leaf first to make sure it's real. It's not something that I can. Do I feel it, or does it like not feel real to me?
As you reach out to touch it, it actually falls off of the statue, the crumbling statue portion, and just sort of plops down into your hand. And it is very real. It is a holy medallion that is just spreading warmth all around you. You just feel this intimate connection to a divine entity that you've never even considered could exist. You're getting these senses of raw power that should not exist in this time. And for some reason, you have been chosen to be an acolyte of this entity, of this goddess. The power is very, very humbling. You almost get this sense that you don't deserve to be a part of this. If she left her connection from your father, what makes you better than your father? If the gods had abandoned mankind 350 years ago, why are you being presented with this opportunity? These ideas are sort of floating through your head. You hear that welcoming voice again. Ask of me what you will, but you must continue your journey soon.
Is my mother still out there? Is there life beyond this world?
Your mother is with us in the afterlife that she has earned. We never left. We have always been here, taking care of those who have chosen to stay faithful to us and shine in their afterlife in our glory. Your mother is at peace.
I just break down into tears, holding the holy symbol. I'm assuming looks like a leaf, right?
Yeah.
and I'm just holding it to my chest, and I say, "Thank you, thank you, Cheslav. What should I call you? Are you the mother of nature? Are you? What do I call you?"
The only thing that you hear before you start to feel this sort of presence seeping away, and as you sort of are waking from this dream that you thought is very, very real in this moment, is I am Chislev, I am nature, I am all around you. And it sort of goes away. You sort of wake with a start and look around, and the wolf, your father's form, is just sitting there, like nudging its nose, its cold nose against your neck. And as you like open your eyes and sort of take in this big deep breath, this gasp, he starts licking your face, and then he turns and pads away.
Father. I reach for my neck to see, like, do I feel anything on me? I don't have the medallion, do I?
You actually do have a medallion. It's underneath the shirt, whatever shirt you're wearing. And the thing is, it just feels as if it's a part of you. Like it doesn't feel like you are wearing something that you haven't been wearing your whole life. It just feels this deep sense of belonging, as if you have been wearing it forever.
And then I call out to my father, "Father, you were right. The gods were always with us. They were always with us."
You just hear this howling coming from the distance, and it just continues to move off into the distance.
I say a prayer to Cheslav, and I pray also to my mother at the same time, saying, "Mother, watch over Father. Help me guide him and protect him. And Cheslav, thank you for this knowledge. Thank you." And I prepare myself to leave, and I head off in the direction. And the last thing I say in my prayer is, "Please guide me. I will do your will."
As you say this, you finish your prayers, you're packing up your small camp that you had set, heading back to the road toward Vogler. You have this overwhelming sense of peace and contentment, something that you've never felt before in your entire life, something that adds some context to how your father has been acting. You can only imagine that feeling what you're feeling now and having that feeling ripped away from you, it's like losing a limb. It's like your heart being ripped out. And so you start to understand the pain that your father has experienced for so many, many centuries. That understanding is going to probably lead you to a deeper connection with him in the future. And ultimately, that is the end of this prelude. And we're going to pick up next Saturday on the 10th with everyone else and moving into Vogler to attend a funeral for Ispen Greenshield.
Awesome. Love it. This is good. I loved it. So
yeah,
cool.
Well, I'm looking forward to seeing how this turns out. We went a little bit differently than it ended in the adventure here, but I like to try to customize things if we can to the character and the histories that you guys have developed. And I think your character is going to be a wonderful sort of role-playing exercise, especially with the potential of your father coming in and out and sharing maybe suggestions or tips or hints or fears or whatever. I think it should be fun.
Yeah, this will be awesome.
All right, well, everyone else out there, thank you guys so much for watching this Prelude, Broken Silence for DragonLance Shadow of the Dragon Queen. Again, we are going to be running the official game starting on the 10th. That is next Saturday as this recording, and we hope that you'll tune in live. You can share your thoughts in the chat about what's going on, what you would like to see us do. Of course, players have autonomy and they get to do whatever they want, but ultimately what this is going to be, rather than a straight retelling of this adventure, it is going to be a shared creative story development with the adventure as the backdrop and the characters informing choices and the outcome. And that is how I think it's going to stand alone in contrast to all of the other people playing this exact same adventure. Thank you all so much for your time, Derek. It is always a pleasure doing this with you. Thank you so much. And until we can get together and until we can roll this game again, Salam Javar.